Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Simon Gray, who is our project manager with GEI, and Mark Northcross. I think you're all familiar with Mark. He's our financial consultant. I know at least Bill would like to make a few comments too at the end of the presentation, at the end of your questions, and then all of us are willing to answer questions for you today. So just quickly going through the whys of this project. Wheatland has an aging, that's a nice term for it, sorry, wastewater treatment plant. It was built in the 1960s. It was built on the wrong side of the levee. In high water events, it overflows into the Bear River. That happened in 2005, 2006. I'm pretty sure it's happened since then. The engineer's estimate that was done about 6 months ago says that there's about 3 years left on that plant. To build a new plant for Wheatland, and this is from a 2019 engineer's report, it would cost an estimated $250 million to replace if they could find a proper place for it, because obviously the current place on the wrong side of the levee is not the proper place for it. If that were to be, that would add to the I think there's about 1,200 hookups in Wheatland. It would add to their sewer bill on a monthly basis about $1,000 a month. That's not workable for the city of Wheatland or its residents. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is OPUD's capacity. So OPUD has a relatively new wastewater treatment plant. It was built about 20 years ago, and they are currently using and never have used more than about 50% of the capacity of that plant. So there's two benefits that would come to OPUD and its ratepayers from this project. One is part of the project is to upgrade the plant. Even though it's only used 50% of the capacity, things still deteriorate and need maintenance after 20 years. And so we'd be upgrading the plant and doing some capital improvements on the plant. So that's a benefit to the ratepayers. And also, by using more of its capacity, they'd be spreading their overhead over more ratepayers, which means, and I want to be really clear on this, their rates won't come down, but they won't go up as fast as they would have. And so it will, in the long run, save money for OPUD ratepayers as well. Beale Air Force Base has some well-known issues with its wastewater treatment plant that was built in the 1940s. Their plant overflows into the nearby creeks in kind of not so high water events, just kind of when it rains heavily. They have been working on replacing their wastewater treatment plant for several years now and continue to do that. What they are interested in is a backup system for their plant. This line will be the closest wastewater line to Beale that they've ever had. It'll be about 3 miles from their current wastewater treatment plant. It's possible for them to connect in the future. And then fourth, it's just a general lack of infrastructure in the South County. We are not, Yuba-Water we're not a land use agency. We don't have any jurisdiction at all. And frankly, our only interest is making sure that the water, surface water, and the wastewater is protected. But both the county and Wheatland have developed general plans and updated the general plans, and they have areas scheduled for commercial and industrial development, for some residential development. They haven't been able to do anything with that because there's no wastewater infrastructure going up that corridor, that 65 corridor. So this will bring that infrastructure there. So just a quick review of what the map is. And I do for the engineers on the board or anybody else who's interested in a close-up of this map. I brought some hard copies of the map that I will leave behind if you're interested. But the first phase of this project takes the wastewater from where it says Pump Station 1 in the bottom right-hand side of the map. That's the connection to the Wheatland collection system. It will take the wastewater all the way up to on the yellow line, and then where it goes to green and green dotted, just the lime green line right now, to Pump Station 21. That's all Wheatland's portion. Wheatland designed it primarily. They will own and operate it. Pump Station 21, and that's the first contract we'll be putting out from Wheatland up to Pump Station 21. The second part of phase 1 is from Pump Station 21 over to, it's the conveyance, over to the OPUD wastewater treatment plant. That's contract 2. I will mention at this point that the county has already contributed to this, invested in this project when they were digging up and doing things on McGowan Parkway. I want to say it was about a year ago, 2 years ago. They went ahead and oversized the pipe under McGowan so we wouldn't have to dig it up again for this project. That was, I want to say, a couple $1 million, but we can get Kevin to weigh in on what that number was. So that's the second contract of phase 1. The third contract are the upgrades to the OPUD wastewater treatment plant, and that's contract 3. The second phase of the project that we're working on and is being designed right now is that purplish magenta color, where it says phase 2, that's water and a wastewater force main going down 40-mile road to serve a current customer and current customers of OPUD. It terminates right about where the Hard Rock's water and wastewater, their current wastewater treatment plant, which is operated by OPUD. So that will be decommissioned and that can connect to this force main. That's phase 2. Future phases we're not working on right now are the dotted dark green lines. That's a gravity wastewater line going down the rest of 40 Mile Road to about the amphitheater. And the dotted line on the other side of 65, that's a gravity line for wastewater and water as well. That's a future phase because we anticipate that that's a commercial and industrial zone there. The county would really like to work on the employment village, which is northeast of Pump Station 21, and then work on the that between Rancho Road and 65. So that could wait for a few years. So those are future phases. We're just talking right now today about phase 1 and phase 2. So phase 1, that's the Wheatland to OPUD wastewater treatment plant, $155 million. That's what's left to be paid on it. Those numbers come from the engineer's estimate, and then we've taken the engineer's estimate and had a construction cost estimator who's not associated with the engineers to do a construction cost estimate on those contracts, on those designs, to make sure that we're in the ballpark to get the most current estimates of what it's going to cost. So that's $155 million. Water and wastewater down 40 Mile Road, and the wastewater, some of the wastewater treatment plant items, $40.5 million. So the whole and then the future stuff that I was talking about, going down to the amphitheater and the water and gravity line on the other side, going down Rancho Road, about $42 million. That's the current engineer's estimate on that. So we've got a total project, include both phases, $195.5 million. Phase 1, Wheatland to OPUD, that's $155 million. Oops. So here's the schedule that's recently been updated. Contract 1, which is the Wheatland part that goes from Wheatland to Pump Station 21. We're preparing the construction bid right now for it. That will be ready to go out by the end of September or early October. Like October 1st is the actual date we're putting our stake in the ground on. That bid would be awarded and have a notice to proceed. Sorry for the acronym. The notice to proceed in December. Contract 2, that's the OPUD conveyance from Pump Station 1 over to the OPUD wastewater treatment plant. That will be ready for bid, according to our schedule, toward mid-November, and the award and notice to proceed in January. And then contract 3, we're still talking about all phase 1. This is the $155 million. It'll be ready for bid in early 26 and awarded and a notice to proceed in summer of next year. What we're hoping, I'll just tell you the second half of it and then tell you how we're approaching this. The water and wastewater going down 40 Mile Road, this is just that first part of it that goes down to about where the casino is, the force main for wastewater. Putting the OPUD engineers on it as soon as they're done with phase 1. So the design will commence it's about 50 to 60% finished right now in design. That will recommence in early next year, and construction expected to complete for all of this in 2028. Now, the reason I'm telling you about all these contracts is, yes, we're putting them out separately, separate owners. There's Wheatland and OPUD. But also we're notifying any of the contractors who might bid on this that more contracts are coming, and they'll be in close succession. So maybe some contractor will look at it and go, okay, I'll give them a better price because I'm going to bid on both of them. I don't know. Hey, we're trying every angle we can on this. And the whole thing is set up so that because the phase 2 going down 40 Mile Road will take less time than all of the other things. Although that contract is going out to bid later, we're really trying to get everything done in 2028 about the same time. Again, if we put out these contracts like we're talking, it will save the contractors on demobilizing and remobilizing for another contract. So we're looking at different ways that we can save money in the actual construction of this project. So that's a project. Here's where it comes down to what we have going forward. So I believe I've shown you this chart in the past, but let me update you on it. So we applied for several grants and are continuing to apply for grants and look for sources of money. We were awarded on August 5th from the State Water Resources Control Board a $75 million grant. It has been through all of the review processes, and now the state board is working on the actual grant agreement, which should take a couple of months. This is as close to certain as we can get without having actually a grant agreement that's signed by both parties. That's $75 million. We did apply for a Defense Communities Infrastructure Program grant. That's for communities that are around defense air, like Beale. We applied for $9.75 million for not quite $10 million. We received notice on August 18th that we did not receive that grant. It was kind of an interesting year for the DSIP program. There was only $80 million available. What we heard was that there was some project in Alaska that got $30 million. And while our application scored very, very high, they wanted to give out smaller grants for the rest of it because they gave so much to Alaska. So we can apply again next year for a DSIP grant, and we will. We can apply for anything that construction hasn't actually started yet. Economic Development Assistance grants. We have applied for 2 $5 million grants, one for OPUD and one for Wheatland. We applied for those and they were in within the past 30 days. Those are awarded on a 90-day revolving basis. So we should be hearing within the next month if we got those. We also have the opportunity to apply for another $5 million on the phase 2, the lines going down 40 Mile Road. So those are still outstanding. The EPA grants, we got high praise for the grant applications that we put in. Unfortunately, that was last November, and that program has been temporarily halted because there's lawsuits flying back and forth about the first round of awards that were given. We were in contact, thank you, Director Vasquez, for doing this, put us in contact with the regional administrator for Region 9 for the EPA, who basically said, yeah, this is dead for a while, at least 3 months, I don't know how long, but send me what you have on it and we'll see if there's any other pots of money. I'm just being totally transparent here. While I give the EDA grants, I don't know, if I were betting on it, I'd say 70% chance we're going to get those. The EPA grants, it's more like 7%. I mean, it's really very slim, but we did apply. So the total possible we could get, or we could have gotten, or could get now without the DSIP is $125 million. And just to remind you, we're looking for $155 million for phase 1 and $195.5 million for phase 2. So to go to bid on that first contract and for the other contracts, anybody bidding on this project, they want to know that it's funded. and I understand that. So to go to bid, we need $80 million. We need a commitment for $80 million. For both phases, and I am not asking for this today, we need $120.5 million. We are still investigating other sources. There may be tribal grants that we can apply for. As I said, there's another EDA grant. There might be other grants out there that we're still looking for. We're also talking to developers for their participation and getting very positive feedback from a couple of developers that we've talked to, one in particular, who is like, if you guys are going on this, we're going to participate. We have talked to the tribe and the casino, who understands that there are developer responsibilities that go along with at least the collection system and the gravity line going down to the amphitheater, and also that they're the primary beneficiary for the 40-mile road piece, and so perhaps they should be the primary financer of that part. So no commitments yet, but we have worked with Mark Bertha, the CEO of Hard Rock, and we're continuing to work with them to move forward on that. Wheatland and OPUD, both, each of them are putting money into this project from their reserves, their ratepayer reserves, the money that they have been collecting from ratepayers for plant improvements or improvements to the system. Right now, and all of the numbers I'm giving you today, of course, until we actually get the construction bids and all of that, they might change a little bit. Wheatland has $3.5 million that they're putting into the project, and at this point, OPUD has about $10 million that they're putting into the project. And I'm just saying at this point, neither phase is fully funded until we have all the financing worked out. And the one thing I guess it's not fully funded because, and we're still going after other financing sources, and grants are a whole lot better than loans from us or from anybody. And so that's why I'm saying we're not yet fully funded. The next step is I'm here today to ask you for approval to keep working on this project and proceed. I'll talk about that in a minute. We're working on the grant agreements already with the State Water Resources Control Board. And I just want to, as an aside, want to say, thank you, Bill Zanoni. If Bill hadn't been calling the State Water Board contact almost every week and bid front and center, I mean, literally front and center at every State Water Board meeting where this was discussed, they know him by name now, and I don't think we would have gotten a $75 million grant from them without Bill. We're still meeting with all the possible funding sources. I did meet with the Wheatland OPUD ad hoc committees, just like I met with our ad hoc committee, which are directors Vasquez, Bradford, and Bishop, so that they knew that everybody knew that this was coming to our board today. We will go back to the governing boards, to the Wheatland City Council and to the OPUD board in early October. We've got to get contracts 2 and 3 design complete within budget, and to the construction cost estimator. Contract 2, parts of it have already gone to the construction cost estimator, so we're on track there. We are working out the details of construction management contract. We asked, Yuba-Water asked GEI, since Simon is a wastewater engineer. He has been working with us to manage this project for a couple of years now. I couldn't think of anyone better to do the construction management on this project. It's a complicated project. It's got multiple owners. It's going to have multiple funding sources. Just making sure that the money that's coming in is going to be spent on the right part of the project is going to be a task in and of itself. So we did ask them ask GEI and Simon in particular, for a bid for the contract management on the project. We received that bid. It was at $17.5 million. We will be fronting that cost. Hopefully we get enough grants, or there are others participating in loans to the project that we get most of that money back, because the $155 million includes construction management. We will have agreements that support our agreement with GEI to do the construction management. Again, it's a complex project, so Wheatland has to delegate their authority to manage the project to us, and so does OPUD. Thank God Andrew's with us. Thank you to our communications department, who has been working on a community outreach program. They're working on, in early October, we'll be going to the Wheatland City Council and to the OPUD board so that they hear everything that's going on. And that's basically the launch of the official outreach program. We have bill stuffers that'll be going out. We'll be doing community meetings, some Zoom meetings. Communications was all in front of this, and they already have a frequently asked questions and a website that everybody can go to who has questions about the project. So thank you, comms. Thank you, comms. And we have a lot of agreements. Once we pin down the financing details, there'll be a lot of agreements. We have this master financing agreement, and then there's operating agreements, and there's going to be sub-agreements, but this all has to be tied together with a nice, neat bow. So we've been working on all these agreements, including grants, delegating authority to us to do the grants administration. That $17.5 million, that does include grants administration. Honestly, both Wheatland and OPUD are pretty small. Hey, we're pretty small. This is a really complicated financing package that's going together, and GEI has experience in doing this. So we've asked them, part of that $17.5 million was doing the grants administration on this project, and loan repayment agreements. So I'll talk about a little bit more about that, but also it's a complex project. Being really upfront about this, because I know it can be controversial. It's going to be complex to operate as well. And so what we're proposing is that all the partners consider forming a regional wastewater authority. So a JPA, much like Trilla, Three Rivers Levee Improvement Authority, to help manage the project once it's operational. Because there's going to be rate increases. There's going to be new entities coming on board and allocating capacity to, let's say Beale joins, then they'll have to be paying for their capacity. So it just gets really complicated. And we're thinking that a regional wastewater authority would help that. And in the long run, when I'm sure most of you will still be on the board, but I'll just be watching the board meetings on Zoom. I was thinking 20, 25 years from now, if there's more capacity needed, there is an opportunity from that pump station 21 to connect up to the Linda County water. And with Linda County already handling Marysville's wastewater, that would truly then be a regional system that handles everything in the valley. So what I am asking for, so I gave you an update on the project. Gave you an update on the project. What I'm asking for today is for approval to proceed on preparing a Yuba water loan. There has been interest expressed in the past at board meetings and by the ad hoc committee to loan this project money. I'm not asking you for approval for a loan today, because I don't know exactly how much it's going to be yet. Depends on other financing sources that we get and who participates. But I'm asking for approval to proceed with the idea that you would be willing to loan this project up to $80 million under certain conditions. That the financing agreement is finalized and signed by all parties. And that, let me be clear, the debt is going to be carried by Wheatland and OPUD. That there is that $3.5 million and $10 million I talked about, that there is financial participation by Wheatland and OPUD, and that we have a demonstrated repayment plan. This is a bona fide loan that would go out and would be repaid primarily through fees paid by new development, so impact fees. The numbers work right now, you know, on the back of the envelope, yeah, they work, but we need more definitive numbers to ask you for a very specific loan. But that loan would be repaid by impact fees. So there is a demonstrated repayment source that would be coming back. At this point, I'm asking for approval to proceed, which means you're reserving the right to increase the amount, decrease the amount, or withdraw the loan if all these conditions aren't met. And there might be other conditions that come up. That's why we hired Mark and we have Andrew. If there are other things that need, and there's a lot of other things that are going to be needed in a financing agreement, but that we have a solid financing agreement that demonstrates it can be repaid. And the second thing I'm asking for approval today is to conduct just the initial study on the feasibility of a regional JPA to do this. We're just looking at who would be the members initially, how many board members would you have, how would decisions get made, which really then is the basis for coming up with kind of the governing bylaws of this JPA. Right now, it's just a study. My guess is, you know, $50,000, maybe $50,000 to $100,000, if even that. This is something that usually it would just go to our general manager and he would approve. I want to be really open about this because I know people might be wondering if we really need a JPA. And that's what this study would come back and say. So that's it from me. Are there any questions before I turn it over to Bill Zanoni?
I have a question, Terry.
Uh-huh.
And I don't know if you can back up, but
Sure.
So there's 3 phases, but on the first phase, there was 3 parts to the first phase, right? And could you get to where the dates were?
Yeah.
So contract number 1 of phase 1, will that solve Wheatland's problem? Because it seems to me we have an emergency.
Not quite. Contracts 1 and 2.
Yeah. Contracts 1 and 2.
That could be, that's the one that goes, contract 1 goes from Wheatland up to Pump Station 21, Pump Station 21 to OPUD. That's the conveyance OPUD has over to its wastewater treatment plant. Right now, if we got those 2 pieces built, then that could be commissioned for Wheatland to use without the improvements at the wastewater treatment plant.
Okay, because my biggest concern, if the engineers told them last year they have 3 years left on their plant, now we have 2 years left on the plant. So can we have this done within 2 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and rest assured, it's even a bigger concern of Bill Zanoni and the city council.
Yeah. So my comment would be that with a $75 million grant from the state already, it would be reckless of us not to continue forward with this. So is there any other questions?
Through the chair.
Yeah.
I got a few. Okay, so 1,360 homes in Wheatland. That's what I've found, just so you know. Do we have an approximate of what the impact fee would be for new lots in Wheatland, or is that us dedicating money before we know what it in the long run it's going to cost?
Using the current estimates that we have, It would be the impact fee for wastewater conveyance and treatment would be 18,000 or between 18,000 and 18,500. There are several steps we're taking right now to be able to pin that down. One is we're having an independent update of the cost of the wastewater treatment plant to rebuild, just so nobody says, hey, technology has really changed. You could do that for $100 million. We don't think that's the case, but we just want to have good, accurate numbers. Secondly, we have a consultant who is right now looking at, okay, if you have these grants and these loans, what could be spent where? Because developers, let's say in Wheatland, they don't want to pay for anything that isn't directly impacted by them. And so we have to be very careful what goes into that. What we're estimating is $18,000. We're having that done right now.
Okay, and then for OPUD shouldn't be categorized as deteriorating, because I've been to a lot of plants and they don't, they do a lot of proactive maintenance, preventative maintenance.
Yes, they do.
Repairs. I doubt they're deteriorating. But you said that their ratepayers have been paying into reserves that will actually go into this project. So why is my question?
Okay, because, not all of the money that the OPUD ratepayers have been paying over the 20 years that whoever's been paying it will go into the upgrades at the OPUD wastewater treatment plant. A certain amount will be going into it because the upgrades that we are putting in to upgrading the OPUD wastewater treatment plant, and deteriorating is probably too harsh a word, but over 20 years, the maintenance that is required, that's what it's going to pay for. The maintenance and the technological upgrades at the plant, so that they're treating the wastewater more thoroughly, I guess, and more efficiently.
Okay, so if OPUD wasn't in the picture on this project, OPUD ratepayers would be paying their excess money, and that would just go to maintenance of their current.
It would eventually go to these upgrades.
Okay, all right.
But there's not quite enough money. I'm just speaking frankly. OPUD has been collecting about half as much money as they should, to cover all of the upgrades and the maintenance they need at the plant. And so the OPUD ratepayers are benefiting, for instance, by that $75 million grant that will pay for some of those upgrades at that plant.
Okay. And then even if there's not a JPA, this will probably include making a special district where all these lines lie and connections happen, or?
It actually could be the current operating agreement. That was a draft that was done 18 months ago or so, contemplates that how Wheatland and OPUD would operate those lines and that plant without a JPA.
Okay.
And so it's possible.
Okay.
Awkward.
All right. Then let's see here. Sorry, I got a lot of questions.
That's good.
When we're talking about grant versus loan, I know on this we're talking about up to an $80 million loan, but what has been discussed on possibilities of grant versus loan amounts from the water agency standpoint?
At this point, we have not contemplated any grants for the actual construction. The water agency, in addition to that $17.5 million construction management contract, has put in about $20 million into the design and engineering. And so that money's already gone out, and we haven't committed any grant money to the actual construction.
Okay, and then just one final question is, I know it's kind of a bad subject because of Marysville and Cal Water, but has there been any thought of a private utility opening this up to see if there's a cost analysis that they would provide, like another company to come in that would want to take that Wheatland contract and build them a plant, and a private entity?
I don't know of any.
Okay.
Typically, a private utility, much like Cal Water in Marysville, is going to have to recoup all of their improvement costs from the ratepayers.
Yeah.
So when I said OPUD wasn't, according to the studies they did, they were only collecting from their ratepayers about half as much as the study said they should have been. I believe that the OPUD board made that decision just because of the income base in OPUD. It was just too much for ratepayers to handle. So OPUD, as a government agency, can say, okay, we're going to operate on 50%, and then we'll figure out, we'll try to get some grants for it. Private utilities generally don't get grants for these kinds of things and are going to charge the ratepayers that full load.
Yeah, no, the only reason I ask is because there's the possibility of a huge amount of homes to be built in the off of this Wheatland connection. So they could they could spread it out over a 50 or 100-year plan to make their money back. So I just want to say that might actually be something you ask, or have somebody join your ad hoc committee, give you a presentation on some private utility options. Just I'm all for moving forward with this, but I just want to make sure that everything's considered.
Thank you. Yes, we'll do.
Any other questions?
Would you need two separate motions for this or one?
Could I welcome a motion, and I don't know if we need two separate motions or not. No, one should be fine. Could I invite up, oh, sorry.
No, I have a couple of questions too, if it's right time.
Yeah, we're gonna do questions, and we're gonna do public comment, and then we'll do a motion. Go ahead, Wayne.
Okay. So first, Terry, I want to say you gave Bill a lot of credit, which he deserves, but you deserve a lot of credit too for sticking with this project.
Oh. Thank you, Wayne, but it was a whole team of people that were working on it.
Yeah. So I've been aware of this problem in Wheatland for 25 years, I think, and there's never really been anything that was anywhere near a solution. So it's pretty exciting to see that this close to happening. Questions I have are the phase 2 funding. So for me, the phase 1 is very clearly connected to the water agency's mission. The phase 2 part of the project is harder for me. So the grants that are still pending, as those come in, would those, and maybe we don't have the answer today, maybe that's coming, but would those offset our loan, or would they go towards phase 2, or does it just depend on what the grant is? Or
That's a great question. It really depends on what the grant is. For instance, the State Water Resources Control Board grant, that is for regionalization of disadvantaged communities. That is not to induce growth or pay for growth or anything like that. But the economic, or for new jobs or anything. For the economic development assistance grants, those are all about how many new jobs are you creating. So it depends on what, like we could use the State Water Resources Control Board grant to build the conveyance for Wheatland to go to OPUD, and trying to divide that between both entities, Wheatland and OPUD. But some we can use on anything, and some we can only use on parts of it. So it really depends on kind of where we end up. The part going down 40 Mile Road, yes, there are some opportunities for septic to sewer connections. Yes, it will hopefully develop jobs. We're involved in it because, yeah, it does still protect the groundwater. I would not recommend to our board that any of our loan, that's why I said don't increase the loan to $120.5 million, because I don't think we should be funding that part of it.
When do you expect to come back for final approval from us?
I would expect it's going to be in November.
Okay. I think for the rest of the board, I think it's just from the work we've done on the ad hoc committee, it's great that we have the opportunity for this to be a loan, as Rennick pointed out. But there will be some risk. And I think the biggest risk is just there's no way we can accurately predict the pace of repayment, because it's all just going to depend on the pace of development, which nobody's ever been able to predict 100% accurately. But the fact that there's a possibility that we could fix this problem in Wheatland with that $75 million grant and developer fees repaying the loan from us, the fact that possibility exists is wonderful. So again, thanks, Terry, for all the work and all the people that I think you've been the glue that's held the project together for years, and past board members too, that this has been going on for a long time. So
Thank you. I never thought I'd say my pleasure to wastewater, but
yeah. There are more glamorous things you could have worked on.
But not more important.
Right.
Thank you, Wayne.
So through the chair, no questions, but I do have a couple comments. As Wayne brought up, this is an issue that Wheatland has dealt with for decades. I will also say I think lack of wastewater in the South County has been an issue in the county also for decades, and we've been looking for both communities, both the county and the city, I think, have been looking for solutions, and there have not been any. And so I certainly appreciate, Terry, all your work on this and the rest of your team, and to Wayne's comment, current board members and previous board members who have continued to push this along and supported it. Of course, our partners, City of Wheatland, especially, and Bill Zanoni and his relentless calls to the State Water and visits to the State Water Resources Control Board. I'm sure they'll be happy to write that check and not hear from him for a while, probably. And as John said, I think that it'd be a shame to waste this opportunity for $75 million to fix that problem that's been around for decades. And so I think it's very, very important that we take care of this, not only for the existing residents of the city of Wheatland, but also for future residents of the county and the city. And I think it's extremely important. And anyway, so thank you to everyone involved.
Thank you, Gary. And yes, I guess this all started with the county and Wheatland in the mid-90s. I mean, there were studies done way back that this was needed. And I will thank the board, because it was really the board, with one board member in particularly pounding on the table, saying, we need to make this happen, so go make it happen. So it was board direction that got Yuba-Water started working on this. At Wheatland's request, honestly. So thanks for the comment.
And it was nice to see, maybe not to pick on them too much, but it was nice to see two entities that maybe hadn't always played nice together in the past to work together towards something that was beneficial to both of them. And I think the water agency had a huge part in kind of helping foster that relationship and steer that along and help both parties get to where we are today. And so huge kudos on that. And then maybe I'll just add real quick an answer to maybe Rennick's question a little bit. I was on the board when some of those OPED board, when some of those discussions about what to set the ratepayer charge at to ensure that we were fully funding the depreciation of the wastewater treatment plant, which had about a 50-year life. And so at the end of 50 years, in a perfect world, you would have set aside 100% of the cost to replace it. And at the time, when I was first on the board, we weren't collecting anything from ratepayers to cover that. And so we actually increased rates to cover 50% of that cost. And the reason the 50% number was chosen by the board is we had about 50% of the ratepayers that the capacity of the plant held. And so we felt that those ratepayers, it'd be fair to charge them 100% of their responsibility, but really they were only half of them. And so that's where that number kind of came from, the 50%.
Through the chair, just another clarification. So I agree, that sounds fair on the OPUD side, but on the impact fees, do Plumas Lake new connections, do some of that, or does some of that go toward future replacement of that OPUD plant? Do you know? And is there going to be any effect on other impact fees on the OPUD network, not just Wheatlands?
There won't be any impact to current ratepayers. The impact fees, yes, there will be some impact fees to OPUD new development. So if there's new housing that comes in, or new businesses or new things in the sports and entertainment zone.
What about the Plumas Lake and Arboga area? If there's new lots being drafted for OPUD, is it going to carry the cost of that Wheatland plant upgrade too? Or just theirs?
It's just theirs.
Okay.
The only thing you can charge is what their building, their house causes. And so, no, they would not be paying for the conveyance going up 40 Mile Road. I'm going up 65. If I could I turn it over to Bill Zanoni, who wanted to make some comments as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Good morning. I'm Bill Zanoni, City Manager for City of Wheatland. And before I start, I need to personally thank Terry and her staff because I know for certain that this project would not have been moving forward as quickly as it has without Terry's support. So I need to get that out of the way first. What I would like to do is thank you for your consideration of this funding request this morning. This project is crucial to the current citizens of the city of Wheatland. As Terry indicated, our current wastewater treatment plant is over 60 years old. It should have been decommissioned years ago. It's in very poor operating condition. Our public works staff struggles with that on a daily basis. I see that on a daily basis. And our plant currently discharges directly into percolation ponds that are within the banks of the Bear River. This plant is environmentally challenged with significant pollution risk. And I think that's something right now that our citizens are not even aware of, but they will be. They will be very soon. The regional wastewater project is a long-term sustainable solution that provides significant environmental and water quality protection benefits, and this is not a project that the city of Wheatland could tackle on its own without your support. So on behalf of the Wheatland City Council and the citizens of the city of Wheatland, I just want to go on record as saying that we greatly appreciate your support of this project. Thank you.
Well, Bill, congratulations on just being so persistent with the state and getting that $75 million grant.
I have a feeling that will be one of the conditions of the grant agreement when we do sign it, is that I promise never to pick up the phone. Yeah.
Mr. Chair, from OPUD, we also have John Tillotson, the general manager, and Mary Jane Griego, one of their board members online. They might want to comment. And also our other partner, Kevin Mallon, is in the audience.
Well, I have a question for Kevin. So if the county spent an extra $2 million on McGowan for this, is that a loan that'll get reimbursed out of all this too eventually from the new development? Or was that just something we needed to do anyway?
No, if I could, through the chair. So Kevin Mallon, Yuba County Administrator. So the County Board of Supervisors actually utilized part of its ARPA funds, the COVID relief funds, for the purpose of actually building a new pipe on McGowan Parkway underneath the road improvements that were being done by the county. So that was a grant.
Okay.
Yep. But actually, I guess if I got the podium here, this project, it is a unique opportunity. It's another one of those points in history for Yuba County, right? I mean, if you go back, well, obviously, if you go back 60 years, you have the formation of the water agency. But you go back even 20 years ago, we were in a situation where our existing communities of Linden and Olivehurst were at risk of flooding. We had levee issues, and then we had a new community that couldn't continue to grow without the protection from those levees. And at that time, you had Reclamation District 784, Yuba County and Yuba Water Agency come together, work out a plan to kind of move forward on that. There was quite a bit of, we had impact fees that we had to identify, that new development covered some of the cost. We had to finance some of that we're still paying that debt off today. But the result is you have the communities of Linden and Olivehurst that have adequate flood protection, and we also provided the flood protection necessary to be able to allow Plumas Lake to continue to grow. And so if you look at this point in history now today, we have a similar issue. We have an existing community that is in need of replacement of a sewer treatment plant. They can't do that on their own. We also have plenty of opportunities for growth in the county, and so this project is definitely a win-win for both existing communities and then our potential for our future. And it's in your hands. All right.
Thank you. Any questions from the directors? Yep. We have a virtual question. Comment.
Mary Jane, you should be able to unmute and speak.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I just want to thank the board for this direction that you gave today in moving this project forward. Today, I'm representing the Olivehurst Public Utility Board. And I just want to say that this is having the opportunity to talk to the State Water Board during their consideration for this project. I think they found that this project was really one that they favored. In fact, it was the largest grant that was issued out this year on their behalf. And the idea of having a county, a city, and two special districts coming together to solve problems was the unique part about this grant. So I'm happy to be a part of this as an OPUD board member, and also would like to share with you that I sent Terry over an article, and it was right after the Measure R campaign that was rezoning the 900 acres where currently the amphitheater and Hard Rock sit at. And the article was about OPUD, and it was at that time, the general manager was Gary Plassiter, and there was an interest of bringing water and sewer out to that specific area. And at that time, Gary Plassiter said that cost would be $2.5 million. So as we can see, time is money. This project doesn't get any cheaper by waiting. And so we really appreciate the work that the agency, the county, the city of Wheatland, and OPUD are putting into making sure that water reliability and environmental issues are addressed as it comes to the wastewater treatment in Wheatland. So again, thank you, Terry, for your leadership. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Mary Jane, for your work on this effort.
You're welcome.
Do we have anybody else on?
We do. John Tillotson, you should be able to unmute and speak now.
I saw a comment from him pop up that he was having.
Yeah, he noted in chat he can't seem to unmute his mic, but a huge thanks to Terry and Bill and the rest of our partners.
All right, great. Is there anyone from the public that would wish to speak on this? None? Okay. Mandy, could you bring up the requested motion, what the request is, so we could draft a motion if somebody wants to? Yeah, I think so. Do you want Andy, you started to make a motion. Do you want it up on the screen?
Not really
Okay.
necessary.
All right. No, he doesn't need it.
Move to approve the board support and direction to proceed construction contract bidding and authorize proceeding to prepare for issuing a loan to the project of $80 million based on certain terms and integrating those terms into the forthcoming final funding agreement.
Well, second.
Okay, all motion's been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed.
Through the chair.
Yeah.
I don't know, just to confirm, does that motion cover the JPA study as well? I just want to make sure that we cover that.
That's what I asked. So you need
Or do we need a second motion for that?
I believe you need a second.
Okay.
motion. Thank you.
Okay, would anybody like to make a motion on the JPA portion?
I'll move to authorize staff to move forward with a study on our regional wastewater JPA.
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded for the JPA. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Okay, the motion passes. Yes. Yep.
So thanks for that. I did want to thank Terry today also, but there were so many thanks to Terry. So we've been working on this for over 5 years, right? My comment is a compliment to this board. I could thank the partners as well. That's been done, but over 5 years ago, we were brought in to help the partners solve this problem. And I want to thank this board and all this board has evolved over the 5+ years we've been working on it. The continuity of direction that you've maintained, every time Terry brings back an update and there are issues here, there are issues there, we might get a grant, we might change the design, whatever it is, the continuity of direction has been great and your support and engagement have been great. The questions that we received today, that's exactly why we have this type of, it's a little bit of a workshop type presentation. Yes, we asked for a clear approval to move forward with the 80 million and with certain terms, but your continuity of direction and engagement has been great. That's how you move large, complex projects forward. So I want to thank this board for that.
Thank you. Item 7, receive presentation from the interns on projects completed during the 2025 summer intern program. Ben.
Terry's a hard act to follow. Thank you.
Ben, can you unmute?
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it, Mandy. Appreciate it, board. I just want to introduce John Krager. He just started in June for us for a couple months. He did as a student intern in the resource planning group. He did an excellent job. I threw a lot of different projects at him, and he was pretty diligent and on top of things and respectful. He also worked with the engineering group on some stuff. And I don't want to steal all his thunder on everything he worked on because I think he's got some good pictures coming up. But I just wanted to thank him. This intern program is great. John's a local guy. He's going to college, and I'll let him tell you what he's doing. But he's done great, and I just want to appreciate his work with the team here. So go ahead, John. Thank you.
Thanks for the introduction, Ben. Good morning. So as Ben said, my name is John Krager, and I was the engineering intern working with the resources planning group. I primarily worked with Ben, but I had the pleasure of working on a variety of projects with a few different people and groups. So to start, I was born and raised in Yuba City. I attended River Valley High School. Recently, I graduated from Stanford with my bachelor's degree, and I'll be pursuing a master's in mechanical engineering this coming fall. Some of my interests fall within sustainable energy generation and component design. So the biggest project I worked on this summer was with Aaron Esselman, and it was the aux servo project. So the aux servo basically runs in the Colgate powerhouses and lets us know how much water we are pumping through the runners. So it's a feedback mechanism for that. And the current ones have become degraded over time. So what I did was I updated the designs that we had so that we could machine it and to make it so it's still compatible with the current housing or the current mounting features we had within the Colgate plants. I contacted some vendors, received quotes, and it is currently in process of being made, and we should have it by the end of September. The next thing I worked on was a hydrological model for Inglebright Dam and the Narrows powerhouses. I worked with Caitlin Chow on this. So what I did was I created a model that correlates the flow through the powerhouses with the elevation of Inglebright Dam, and this lets us predict the power output we're going to get based on those criteria. So this, the thought behind this is that operators can use this to help them know how quickly they're depleting Inglebright or how quickly it's filling. so that they can avoid making it too low or overflowing it. And it'll also hopefully be used in the day-ahead model to help the agency more accurately predict how much water they're going to need to pump in order to get the necessary megawatt output from the Narrows powerhouses. And then with Ben, I worked on an asset management program. So created different sheets for the Narrows powerhouses and both the Colgate units. And so this should help the agency keep track of the condition of the componentry within those powerhouses. This will let us predict and prevent failures and should hopefully help the agency maximize like the return on investment with these components so that they know when to replace them at the proper time. Then I also got to work on the Nature Like Fishway a little bit. Looked at the 30% and 60% plans, offered advice on anything that I thought might have been off with the current design. And I also looked at a lot of the assumptions that the company made with their design. So I wanted to make sure that things like the flow that we're diverting that they calculated could actually be reached to fulfill the needs of the agency. And then I got to look at the ARC spillway a little bit. So I reviewed the project management plan just to kind of check that we're actually getting the things that we need from the construction managers. And then I created this little quick facts sheet that you can see on the slide. For the tunnel outage, I did a couple of things for that. First, I calculated the pressure that the butterfly valve will be under during the outage. And then I created a drone operating procedure. So once the tunnel outage is in effect, hopefully following the procedure, we can fly a drone inside of Bullards Bar Dam to image the penstock inside and check out the condition it's in. Then I looked at the project management plan, which was recently put into place by the agency. I looked it over, gave some advice, offered some feedback to it, and I know a few of those things got put into it. And then the final thing was the F Street, the renovations that were recently done. I updated the AutoCAD dimensionings as we had to match the as-built dimensions of the F Street office. And with that, some of the things I learned were, got a lot of experience with design and manufacturing, actually taking something to manufacturers to get it built, data modeling, asset management, project management. I even learned a lot about energy markets. And some of the technical skills I learned were in SolidWorks and Excel, and all of those will be very helpful to me for my future career. And so with that, I'd like to thank the board for supporting this internship program. It's a really great experience to be here. The employees of Yuba Waters, wonderful place to work. It's just a great culture, and I enjoyed coming in every day. And of course, Ben for taking me under his wing and teaching me a few of the things that he knows about the hydro world. So with that, thank you all.
Thank you. Excellent presentation. Well, we're not going to let you off the hook that easy. Are there any comments or questions from the directors?
You did a great job on the presentation. You included all the stuff that you'd worked on and how it helped the water agency, and I really appreciated that. I did have a question on your fact sheet on the spillway. You had a range for cost of 210 to 290. How do we make it come in at 210?
This was just based on quick search. I don't have access to all of the actual.
The only number we ever hear now is 290. So
okay,
I was curious what your data.
Yeah, no, this was just based on a quick search because I don't have access to all the
so
information.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit of old information there. Yeah.
The rest is grant money.
Have they offered you a job yet?
Not yet.
This is almost as good as PG&E.
So you might have covered it and I might have missed it, but I know you just graduated. What's your plan now?
So I'll be going back to Stanford for a master's degree.
Okay.
So 1-year master's program.
What kind of job are you looking for when you get done?
I'm definitely looking into the energy industry. So there's a lot of stuff happening right now, especially like geothermal and whatnot, like stuff like that. So just kind of looking to stay in this realm.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for interning with us too. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Wayne?
I just wanted to comment, this has been said before, but I really appreciate that you manage these interns and we give them real projects to work on. And certainly have qualified people to do them and we're not making up work, I guess is what I'm saying. So it's good to see those things happening. And I just wanted to say one thing a professor said to me about, I guess, like almost 40 years ago, that there are a lot of good careers in water. And I didn't listen for like 38 years or something. But it's true. So think about working in water.
Definitely will.
Through the chair, just echo that what a great presentation it was, but I was really impressed not only for the important operational tasks that you were involved in, but I mean, looking at this list, you were involved, I think, in every single major initiative that the agency has going on. So that's great that you were able to contribute to all of those. So thank you.
Yeah, I feel lucky to have been able to work on such cool projects.
Yeah. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Is there another intern? Two more? Okay. Who's going to introduce our next person?
Good morning, Chairman and members of the board. I'm Carly Ellis. I think I've met a few of you in passing at various events, but I'm senior hydrologist with the Water Resources Group. That's our small team over there. Kyle's got a big grin on his face, as usual. So this summer we had the pleasure of having Emily Connick on our team, and she was an incredible addition to our team. She is incredibly hardworking. She was always showing up on time, sometimes beating our other staff in, which is always nice to see. She was game for any task that we handed her, which in a scientific field-based position can really run the gamut. So we are very lucky to have had her. And with that, I will let her tell you more about how she did help us this summer, what specific tasks she worked on, and what's up next for her, which is also exciting, like John. Thanks.
Hi, good morning, Chairman of the Board. Like Carly said, I was a hydrology intern and my name is Emily Connick. And I also just wanted to start off today by thanking you guys for this opportunity to present. And I'm really excited to show you guys what I did this summer. So I was going to go into a little bit about myself. So I'm from Sacramento, and I just graduated this spring from Chico State with an environmental science bachelor's with an emphasis in hydrology. And then this fall, September 22nd, I start my master's program at UC Davis for environmental policy and management with a specialization in water resource management. So I'm super excited about that. And then like a little bit about myself, like why I chose to go into this field was my dad has worked for the Forest Service for 30 years. So he opened up like my eyes to this career path and how many options there were. And nature, the outdoors was a huge part of our growing up. My brother's a hotshot forest firefighter as well. So we grew up doing a lot of outdoor activities like hunting, fishing, backpacking, and camping. And I got into hydrology because of my hydrology professor at Chico State. 3 days into the class, I changed my option from energy resources to hydrology because I loved it so much. So it is definitely what I want to do with my future career. So a little overview about my role was that basically, so most of what I did was shadowing the hydrology team and participating and assisting in data collection and measurements taken in the field, which I'll get into in a little bit, and then also doing some office work such as inventory and organization of data, as well as annual plots for monitoring wells. So the first week of the month is going to be FERC. So that stands for Federal Energy Regulatory Commission sites. And those are sites that may be impacted by hydropower production. So as hydrologists, we are collecting data on how much water is coming into the reservoir, out of the reservoir, moving through tunnels, natural rivers, and stream reaches. So this data helps ensure that operators have accurate and up-to-date information throughout the watershed. And how we collect this data, one example is NY28, which is in this picture right here. This is this site. So it is on a cableway, and we attach a boat with like a rope to it, and we can move this like motor that this yellow boxes, and we can move it back and forth across the river using this boat with a sensor on it in order to collect data on how much water is moving through this transect. We also do flow tracker measurements. Sorry. Okay, we also do flow tracker measurements at these FERC sites, which is this picture, these two pictures here. So we set up a transect with a measuring tape, and basically what we are doing is capturing the amount of velocity that is moving through this transect with the flow tracker, which you can move up and down. We're getting water depth measurements as well as the velocity. And then we also do gauge and staff checks. So we are going into the gauge houses, which store and power the data loggers. So that's giving us real-time data of the stage and flow. And then we can confirm it with staff checks, which are physical, like giant measuring sticks that are in the water. And so then we can also confirm that for the operators to make sure that both of those are matching up. Then we also get into canal week, so that's the second week of the month. So what we're doing here is confirming flow levels in these canals to Water Tracker and ditch tenders, which Water Tracker is a app that has basically all of our data in it with all of the stream flows. And we are doing these measurements by using the boat that I was talking about in the previous slide. And we could set this up many ways. One of the ways that you can do it is by having two people on, or one person on either side of the canal and pulling the boat back and forth. And that's definitely the easiest way to do it. So having me there as an extra body definitely helps because you're able to cut down on the setup time and measurement time. So it makes us a lot more productive throughout the week. And we can get a lot more measurements done in different canals and different sites. Then we also do groundwater weeks. So the main objective of this is going to our large network of monitoring wells, and we are taking depth water measurements. So how you do this is I would use a sounder, and a sounder is basically a reel with like a measuring tape on it with a probe at the bottom. And once you reel it down into the well, it'll start to beep when it comes in contact with water. And then we can get that measurement. And then also the wells have a probe at the bottom of them that is connected through a cable to the top that you can download data from these sensors. And then we can process the data into our database processing software called Hydra. And then we also did a project this summer, which was the annual groundwater water quality collection. So that was something that I definitely got to take a lot of charge on, and I got to prep for the field. And the preparation, as you can see, it's this long plastic 2-liter bag with a cap on the top, and there's also a weight on the bottom. So I assembled those before we went on into the field, and then we deployed them. And we would place them inside the well via rope all the way at the bottom, leave them for 24 hours, and then we had to come back the next day and we would pull them all up. And then you take a plastic straw and you stab it into the bag and use 3 sampling bottles and collect the samples, write the site, time, and then we were sending them off to the lab to test for different parameters. And then we also did boundary flow week, so that is last week of the month. So these are really important because we are collecting data for how much water is leaving the watershed. So you can do this through flow tracker measurements as well as the boat measurements. And this is really important because when I was collecting this data, some of these sites are a lot newer and less established. So basically what we were doing was creating rating curves based on that and trying to find the relationship between the stage and the flow. So that will help with models that'll help better understand the nature of these sites, and it will also help improve older sites because you constantly have to keep working on those rating curves. Some other opportunities that I also got was that I also got to tour the South Canal with ditch tenders, so I got to learn all about the water delivery and how important Keith's job is to ensure that water is getting to our member units, as well as I got to go to Racetrack Point, and I got to help with the remote ADCP measurement by ATV, so you can only access it there. That was really cool to also see how these instruments work in such a remote area and how much preparation also goes into getting access to those areas. And it was a very cool experience to see a different side of the watershed because it was so far up north. And then we also got to do penstock flow meter testing. So that is where we were putting these portable sensors on the penstock and confirming it with the permanent ones inside with a variety of different flow levels. And then we also, this was the first project that I got to work on, which was we were collecting groundwater recharge measurements, which is in this picture here. So it's in a stilling well. There's a probe there that is measuring the amount of water that is in the recharge pool and when it's going down. And then we would also go and test a neighboring monitoring well to see if the recharge was working and if the groundwater water table was increasing. And then I also got to attend the Extreme Precipitation Symposium at UC Davis, which was really great. I got to spend an entire day learning more about water management throughout the entire state, which really helped me broaden the horizon since I went to Chico State and now Yuba. It's very similar watersheds, so getting to learn more about others and their challenges really helped broaden my horizon and was just a great educational experience. And then I just also wanted to say thank you again for this opportunity and this internship. It meant a lot to get to do so much field work and get that experience was amazing. And for Carly, Bobby, and Sam, they helped so much and taught me so many things. And I got to use equipment that I didn't get to use at Chico State, that we didn't have access to. So I got to learn so much and really got like a lot of repetition. And I feel so much more comfortable out in the field now. And yeah, I just want to thank everybody for this opportunity today. And if you have any questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer.
I'll make a comment. That was an excellent presentation. When you first started, I'm like, we're never going to be able to hear because the microphones are so far away, but you speak so clearly, it just picked it up. So just a great job of presenting. And I'll turn, is there any other comments or questions from the board?
Yeah, I think you made a correct choice when you switched from one to the other in your major. I don't think one's going to allow you to wear shorts and stand in the river.
Yeah.
Good job.
So through the chair, great presentation. Loved all the field information about all the, where you were at in the watershed and seeing the pictures as well. So after seeing really sounds like most of the watershed, where's your favorite spot in the watershed?
I really liked, so anywhere up in Bullards, that's definitely where the pretty sites are. It was Jones Bar. That was definitely a lot of fun that we got to go to. And that was just really fun measurement to take. It was really nice to get to stand in my shorts in the water. So yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Could you expand a little bit on the extreme weather? The rainfall they had in Texas was extreme. And I see you went to a synopsis at Davis. What was the bottom line?
Well, they actually didn't really talk that much about the Texas incident, but we did get to learn a lot about like the Katrina and the levees and levee protection as well. So that was really interesting here and definitely applicable to, Yuba County. But it was really cool to see how different areas use different types of data analysis tools and stuff like that to, collect data and manage their water. But yeah, it was definitely interesting to learn about.
Thank you.
Okay. I had one other question, Emily. Who do we contact to get a tour of Racetrack Point? That sounded interesting to me.
Yeah.
Carly. Okay, great. Thank you. Excellent job. Okay. So we have one more, and I see Andrew's standing up, so I guess he's going to introduce.
Morning, Chair Messick, directors, your general counsel, Andrew Ramos. It's my pleasure today to introduce on behalf of Adam Robin and myself, our fantastic legal and government relations intern, Jasmine Garza. Jasmine came to us this summer from McGeorge School of Law in Sacramento, where she's a second-year law student. When Adam and I interviewed Jasmine, we knew she would be a perfect fit. She had a great background for Yuba Water. She's an FFA alumna, and she has a degree in agricultural communications. And the only questions we had for Jasmine when we finished the interview were, when can you start and can it be Monday? She came through. She had a very busy summer. You're actually going to see her after her presentation back here for item number 8. So her interim presentation, which she'll tell you about, involved creation of a potential ordinance for your adoption, and it's actually going to end up being your item number 8 for discussion. So we had a great summer with Jasmine. It was a pleasure having her as a one-person legal department. It was great to have a team behind me. So without further ado, Jasmine will tell you a little bit about her summer.
I'm glad you corrected that, Andrew, because my deal says item 6 again. Don't have an item 8. Yes, we do.
Good morning, Chair Messick and the rest of the board members. So as Andrew just said, I had the lovely opportunity this summer of being the government relations and legal intern here at Yuba-Water Agency. So before I talk about the summer projects I worked on and what I learned, I wanted to jump in just a little background about who I am. So I was born and raised in Bakersfield, California. Sorry. And it's just 4 hours south of here, very suburban. An agricultural industry, strong oil industry. So kind of surrounded by that and being involved in the FFA during high school, I got exposed to the different issues that the agriculture industry was dealing, got exposed to the regulations and policies that impact those different industries. And that led me to go to Fresno State and major in agricultural communications and minor in plant science. I've always thought it's really important to not only understand the communication side and the regulations and the policies, but also understand the science behind those types of things. So after spending a summer in DC, I decided that I wanted to go to law school and pursue not only a degree in law, but also just continue to focus in the agricultural industry and see what impact I can make. So I'm just now starting my second year. I'll be graduating in 2027. And then I also got a cat. So anytime I can talk about him, he's up there. His name's Francis. So my first day, as Andrew said, I actually attended a board meeting. And so showed up here, not really, actually my first day at the internship. So I didn't even go into the office. First day here was at a board meeting. And it was a really cool experience because I got to not only see you all operate as a board, but also be introduced to the grants program, just get a little background on what the agency does. And that led into one of the first documents that I reviewed, which is the Agency Act, which created the agency. And this was really helpful because it helped shape my understanding of who Yuba-Water is, how Yuba-Water works, and kind of the authority, the legal authority that gives them the power to do that. I also watched a Tricky Yuba documentary, and not necessarily being from the region, really appreciate and understand the history behind the water agency, and it really helped shape my experience this summer. So one of the other documents that I then went into researching was the rules of proceedings. So as the board of directors, the rules of proceedings is what governs the policies and procedures that you all follow. Now, because of the fact that Yuba-Water Agency is a local agency, it's subject to the Brown Act. And the Brown Act was passed in 1953, as it says up there on the slide, and it's to promote transparency and public participation in local government. Now, the California State Legislature updates and does different amendments to these bills. A lot of them have been relating to the new teleconferencing procedures and different things within the board that may impact the water agency. So I went on the California Legislative Bill tracking site, and I tracked down different amendments that were made between the past couple of years. And in the near future, Andrew is actually going to be presenting to you all possible amendments to the rules of proceeding that correlate to these amendments that are made in the state legislative. Now, in addition to that, as I mentioned earlier, Yuba-Water Agency, large scope of things that are happening here. Not only is it a local agency, but you're also dealing with environmental review issues. And on the more local agency and public agency side, you're subject to the California Public Records Act. And the California Public Records Act makes it that any person in the public can request to inspect or obtain a copy of public records. And those records can include anything from private emails to different documents. And as a local agency, that includes any documents that we have. So we got a request this summer in regards to some of the cameras that the agency has on certain sites. And what Andrew had tasked me with doing was looking at the relevant law. So I researched relevant laws that pertain to the specific topic. I looked at exemptions. So if we did get them the information, what is the certain information that we could exempt from that? And then once I had gathered all this information, understood the legal background to what we were dealing with, I drafted a letter. And in this letter, we outlined, here's the relevant laws, here's the information we're going to give you, and if you have any questions, let us know. We sent that letter out, and we have not gotten a response, so it's pretty good in the sense that we provided those public records, and they were satisfied with what we provided them. Another part of my internship was working with Adam. So within government relations, it's dealing with anything from what is the California state legislature doing, what are the kind of issues and things going on there, but also updates about new bills, different things facing the industry, different things facing the environmental industry. So we talked about the California Environmental Quality Act. I attended a weekly meeting to not only with the internal communications, but also with the state lobbyists that the agency has. And it was really interesting to see the large scope of issues that they were dealing with and talking about. Adam also had the opportunity to introduce me to people that work specifically within the California Environmental Quality Act as lawyers and deal with more of that litigation issues. And then my big project this summer was the California Environmental Quality Act ordinance that we'll be talking about in this next item on your agenda. What that really was Andrew came to me and said, okay, so he had this idea for a new ordinance. He said the board and the agency is always trying to be more efficient. We're trying to make a streamlined process. And in doing that, I didn't really know anything about the California Environmental Quality Act. So the first place I started was just researching it. So went online, looked at the guidelines, and found out that the California Environmental Quality Act is triggered when local agencies, public agencies make actions or decisions. And then it's a review process of seeing if those actions impact the environment really in any way. So some of those goals in having this act is to inform the public and inform the government about decisions that are being made in order to identify and reduce any environmental damage that can happen. But all of this is subject to different projects are subject to different review, which is what I came to learn. And our project is specifically about projects that are exempt. Notices of exemption would be if a project isn't necessarily subject to a full initial environmental review. And in the Public Resource Code, which is the code that created CEQA, it gives us the power to delegate environmental decision-making to a non-elected decision-making body, such as our staff. And so this is that Public Resource Code that gives us the power to delegate that decision-making power to our staff instead of, say, a board of directors. Some of that research also include, which is kind of unique to the law, is legal research. So I had the opportunity to look at the San Diego CEQA procedures and also research relevant case law, such as this McCann versus City of San Diego case. And in this case, they pretty much established that they did have the power to delegate to the staff, given there are certain procedures in place, given there's a process of appeals. And we looked at this case, saw the procedures that were in place, and saw what the court upheld as being right and good. So we kind of looked at this as a guideline for going into our process. And then, I think this is my last slide on this. So yeah, so that was, we're going to talk more about this in depth and what those procedures looked like and kind of what Andrew and I came up with. But, oh, how do I go back? Do I use the, wait, this. So Andrew and I are going to discuss a little bit more of the procedures and a little bit more in depth. But my role really in this was doing the research, having a draft. Andrew reviewed that draft. And then we talked to a lot of internal staff, talked about what their ideas were, what, any comments that they had. And then coming back after my study abroad, which you all just saw, I reviewed the relevant law and so on. So another thing that I got to do this summer, aside from working here at Yuba-Water Agency, was Andrew and Adam gave me 3 weeks off in July, and I went to study abroad in Salzburg, Austria. It was my first time studying, just being abroad in general, and it was a really, really great experience. I I took two classes, one on the freedom of expression, taught by Judge Callahan, who is a U.S. District Court judge in the Ninth Circuit. And so it was a very, very cool experience, not only to be taught by her, but also to learn about the differences between how the U.S. views the First Amendment rights and how the European Union views those things and the different restrictions that they have. So in addition to taking classes, I also had the opportunity to visit Berlin and see the Berlin Wall. We went to Munich, and we also had the opportunity to go to Vienna, which is the capital of Austria. And then, as you can see on the bottom picture, I was actually telling Andrew about this and he laughed, but there's a river that flowed through Salzburg, which is the city I was staying in, and it rained a lot. And we had just gone on our tour, and the hydrologist had talked about measuring the water flows, and every time it rained, the water would go by so fast, and I would think about Yuba-Water Agency and think about how, I was like, oh, the water's going really fast. I did not know how fast it was going. I didn't get that. And so my future plans include staying here at McGeorge, starting my second year, graduating in 2027 and taking the bar. I hope to practice in the environmental, agriculture, or public agency law realm. Don't really plan on changing that because I really, really enjoy the people and the industry. Overall, some of my life goals in general are just to live to serve my community and make the world a better place. And working here at Yuba-Water Agency has been a great experience because you all are definitely making the world and the community a better place. So thank you so much and really appreciate it.
Thank you. It was an excellent presentation. Too bad Emily didn't know. She could have went with you to measure that water. Any comments?
What were your thoughts on the expression differences between the EU and US?
It was really interesting because I saw how history has shaped different countries. So the US, we had the American Revolution, and a lot of those ideals of freedom and independence shaped the way we view the law today and why we think that you should be able to say whatever you want. And kind of if someone gets offended by that, then that's kind of the repercussions of having the right to the First Amendment. Whereas in the European Union, you've dealt with different world wars, and especially being in Austria, very close to Germany, you kind of saw the impacts of that and the cultural changes that where in the European Union, it's actually one of the laws is it's against the law to say that the Holocaust wasn't real. And so different things like that were really interesting, and I enjoyed seeing that dynamic.
So it was the close proximity of nations to nations that you think causes them to be more sensitive to aggravating words?
Possibly. There's definitely different cultural standards, I would say, and even just a more, with the law especially, we're okay with having people having their own independence, whereas over there, they're okay with maybe restricting people to uplift a better society. If we want everyone to be good and be peaceful and be kind to each other, they're okay putting in more laws to make sure that happens.
With the Request for Public Information Act on the videos earlier, did we end up redacting or limiting any of it, or we gave them everything they wanted?
Andrew, comment on that.
Thank you for that question, Director Fuhrer. We did redact certain information. So to be specific, this request was for information regarding certain security cameras that we maintain jointly with local law enforcement. So there is a law enforcement exemption that we're able to rely on, and we did redact certain information consistent with the public records request.
So like, is that information of like when cop cars drove by, or what is the information that gets redacted?
The information was specific to some of the information that the security cameras had collected about members of the public that were not the subject of criminal investigation, but were captured by the video cameras.
Could you elaborate or no?
I think that's probably as far as I can go on elaborating at this point because it is part of the agency security procedures.
All right. Any other questions, comments?
We do have a virtual comment.
All right.
Julia, who said, very interesting presentation. Thank you for your insight, Jasmine.
Jasmine, I like to thank you for choosing to come intern with Yuba-Water and making a strong impression on Andrew. And yeah, I love when the kids go through 4-H FFA and they understand how the world works before they even get to college, and it leaves a lot less to figure out for them. So good job and good example for others. Thank you.
Thank you.
Through the chair. Thank you. I had a question about public agency law. I know it's on the list of things that you're considering after you graduate. So were you considering that prior to the internship or just after?
So being in the agriculture industry, you kind of see how different agencies, government agencies, state, federal impact. So it's something I thought about. I think going into law school is kind of this, you don't really know until you know. And being here at Yuba Water Agency definitely opened me up to the idea of working in a public agency and seeing that dynamic of you all deal with what kind of seems like you're dealing with your own company in a way, but then you also are located with the government. And so it was something I was considering. I think I just didn't understand kind of what that looked like. And so I really enjoyed being here because again, as other interns have mentioned, you all have a great culture. The staff is amazing. I love that not only was I working with Andrew in legal, but I also got to talk to the hydrologist, got to go on a tour of the different facilities. And so, yeah, it's definitely something I'm looking into more now, whether that be in a position like Andrew, where he's working as an attorney for a public agency, or you can actually work at a firm and then represent public agencies when they need outside counsel.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. All right. I will move on to item 8. Introduce and waive first reading of ordinance number 16. Andrew.
Good morning again, Chair Messick and directors. Jasmine, don't go too far. As you know, Andrew Ramos, your general counsel. So part of the big talk at the state this year has been CEQA streamlining. I like to think of this next item as CEQA streamlining coming home to Yuba Water. So Jasmine and I will be talking to you about introducing a proposed ordinance that we believe will improve the efficiency, transparency, and legal certainty of our routine environmental determinations. So as Jasmine discussed during her intern presentation, development of this ordinance was really her key project for the summer. It's an idea that I handed her and asked her to run with. We also worked with internal stakeholders on this process, and I did want to recognize our resource planning, environmental, water resources, and grants teams who all are impacted by this potential ordinance and gave us their feedback. So as you know, the California Environmental Quality Act, or CEQA, is a cornerstone of how we evaluate the potential impacts of agency projects. Many of our activities, however, are routine or minor in nature and fall under common exemptions to CEQA. Under our current practices, when we have a CEQA exempt project, the only way to legally confirm that exemption is to bring the item to the board of directors and have you approve an item, approve an exemption for it. We actually did that earlier today on your consent agenda, where we had 3 grant-funded projects, all of which were CEQA exempt, all of which had prepared board items for you that went on your consent agenda today. Under this new streamlined process, items like those exemptions could all be handled by a staff-determined process, a streamlined process, if you will. So the ordinance before you today, ordinance number 16, is designed to streamline the exemption process while adding important public-facing components and legal protections. First thing the ordinance does is it delegates the authority for making certain common CEQA determinations to agency staff. And this is only going to apply to straightforward determinations. These are projects which we expect would have no environmental impacts. These are projects that are potentially exempt from CEQA, like routine maintenance of our facilities. They're projects where we don't expect a significant impact to the environment, like the extension of a lease agreement that's been in place for years and would continue under its same terms for another term. Or they're projects like our forest health projects, which are often covered by programmatic environmental impact reports. We've already done the CEQA review for a project, and we're just confirming it legally that this new phase of the project falls under that prior environmental document. All of these types of projects would be covered by the proposed ordinance. Crucially, the delegation that we're talking about for ordinance number 16 does not apply to negative declarations or environmental impact reports. Projects where we expect there might be some environmental impact that needs to be studied, those processes would still remain largely staff-driven, but come to the board for ultimate approval once the environmental documentation is complete. Second thing the ordinance would do is create a clear and transparent public appeal process. Jasmine flashed it on the board during her presentation, but Public Resources Code 21151 requires that if the board adopts a delegated process like we're proposing, there needs to be some appeal process to the board of directors at the end of the day if someone disagrees with a determination. So ordinance number 16 creates that appeal process. If staff makes an environmental determination that a project is, for example, exempt and subject to the ordinance creates a notice of right to appeal process, which would appear on the agency website, would also be posted at our offices, and it creates a 10 business day appeal period, during which time any person who disagrees with the determination could appeal the decision to the board of directors, thus staying the project during that time. I'm now going to turn the discussion back to Jasmine, who will describe some of the benefits of this approach.
As Andrew mentioned, this process is it's very significant to the agency. It's going to add a lot of value, not only for the efficiency fact, but it's also going to have some two key legal protections that it provides for the agency. So when you file a notice of exemption with the county clerk using when you file a notice of exemption, it shortens the days and the statute of limitations for lawsuits from 180 to only 35 days. So this gives the agency a little bit greater legal certainty when we file for projects, for example, the grant projects where we're investing a lot of money, say, into these projects, but between that 180 days, if we're filing that notice of exemption, it limits the days to 35 for the statute of limitations for lawsuits. And so we know that we're investing our money into projects that are cleared by CEQA, have this notice of exemption, and gives the agency more protection. And then second, the ordinance codifies the exhaustion of remedies doctrine, and this is really specific to CEQA in some ways. So it explicitly states that a person may not initiate a lawsuit or challenge a determination without first appealing to the board. So this pretty much means that a person has to file an appeal against, say, the CEQA determination that we made, and then provide that information. They have to state all of the valid reasons that they're filing that appeal, and this ensures that issues that are brought for you to resolution first instead of the court of law. And it limits any potential lawsuits to only those arguments and evidence that were raised during that initial appeal. So if you don't make an initial appeal, whatever information even if you do make an initial appeal, whatever information you include in that, that's the record for any other possible lawsuits. But it provides that level of protection for the agency, not only in that first half, limiting the statute of limitations, but also in the second half, if there is an appeal, limiting that in the scope to just what the appeal is.
I want to emphasize that second point that Jasmine made. The key to this process is before someone could file a CEQA lawsuit about any of these projects that fall under this ordinance, they have to go through the appeal process. They have to raise the arguments that they would file in a lawsuit before the board first, so that you get to review them before they show up in a lawsuit. That's key for the agency to eliminate the possibility of surprise CEQA lawsuits. I want to speak for a moment about process. Today, we're not looking for approval of the ordinance, of course, because it's an ordinance. Today is for introduction and for waiving of first reading. Our request is simply that you do that, and that would allow us to place the ordinance on your agenda for a future meeting for consideration, likely the next September meeting. With that, I'm happy to take any questions from the board.
Thank you, Andrew. Any questions from the board? Is there any public comment? All right. Would anybody like to make a motion?
I'll move to waive the first reading and
Second.
do staff's recommendation.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move into manager's report.
Yeah, thanks, Chair Messick. I want to start by complimenting our internship program. I think when we kicked it off a few meetings ago, we had our first internship presentation. I know Teresa left, but, or is Teresa here?
She left.
She's gone. I think we've now had 50 interns go through, and today was the last of the interns for this year. They do a great job. I'm glad you put Andy or whoever put Andrew between me and the interns on the agenda. It's nice not to go after them. They do a great job. I'm just amazed at their ability to speak. These young, blossoming, career-led type folks. They do a great job. At any rate, I also want to thank staff for, and I know Director Bishop and Director Fuhr ask questions about the meaningful work they do. It's staff that ends up helping decide what that is and taking on the intern and guide them. So I want to thank staff for doing that. I know a bunch of the staff that was involved in that left, but and thank you for the support for the internship program. We do get value out of it. So with that, we'll go into my manager's report. New Bullard's Bar is at 892 feet in elevation. That's about 693,000 acre feet. Our target end of September carryover is 650,000 acre feet. So we're on our way to drafting the reservoir down, meeting the accord flows, meeting all our irrigation demands, and getting to 650,000 acre feet. Now it's the September 2nd, so we're in the last month of the water year. The water year starts over on October 1st, so things are looking good there. Staff is still preparing for the big tunnel outage starting in less than a month from now. It starts on October 1st, so staff and the Obayashi Drill Tech team are still up mobilizing and preparing water treatment plants and safety plans and operational plans, tunnel drain plans, clearances, all the stuff needed to drain the tunnel and get in the tunnel and do the work, including the work in the shutoff valve on the downstream end of the portal. Final touches are being made on the power systems facility. I know you all have now been there, but there's still a bunch of work going on. And that's going well, and I'm thinking by the end of the year it'll be like fully operational. I still haven't been in the warehouse section of it, but I know things are going well there. I want to thank primarily Tim Trung and Brian Perrin, our dam safety engineers, and the team that put it together. But we did get through our FERC EAP functional exercise. I think that was last week or maybe the week prior. It went well. We had a lot of engagement from the emergency management agencies, great engagement. It was a really great scenario that a portion of our team put together. Although very serious and dramatic, it was a realistic series of events that they created that unfolded and we had to respond to. And it made your heart beat fast as you're, trying to mock a real life scenario, but it went well. FERC was in attendance, and they said they were very pleased with the exercise, which is a big milestone. This is an exercise you do every 5 years. And then the following 2 days, Tim and Brian and others took them out to inspect our dams, and that dam inspection went well as well. The rest of the staff up at the plant are basically doing routine maintenance, preparing for the tunnel outage. All units are online. There are no outages. Everything is operating as normal. That will all change, like I said, on October 1st. In communications, last week, the American Fisheries Society launched a digital video series called Tomorrow's Catch, Securing Our Future Fisheries. We were featured in a few videos, including a thought leadership piece, talking about our philosophy on partnership and collaboration and why we do the fisheries work we do, as well as a short documentary style piece featuring Joanna Lassard and some of our partners on the various fisheries work we're doing. This was a really great opportunity to get our work featured in a series that will be seen by the people who care most about securing our fisheries for the future. Our comms team is planning to broadly share our videos in the next week or so. In community relations, Aaron Esselman represented us at Yuba College for a panel discussion following their screening of the finale of a reality show featuring the school's manufacturing team. The panel discussed our use of the manufacturing team and the opportunities for their students in the workplace. Our upcoming sponsorships include the Beale Air Force Base Ball, the Say Love Dinner, and the Taco Festival, all on Saturday, the Food Bank Follies and the Walk to End Alzheimer's on Sunday, the Rotary Club of Marysville's fundraiser Sodbusters on the 12th, the Marysville Stampede on 13th and 14th. Today we have a pod meeting right after this meeting. It's scheduled for 11, so it's 5 minutes to 11. So it'll be immediately after this meeting over at F Street. And then after that, we'll have an ABP. It's scheduled for 11:30. But it'll start after the pod is over. And our upcoming meeting is on September 16th. We'll have a regular board meeting and it'll be followed by a special board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any questions? None? All right, so we'll move on to director's reports. Start down here with Wayne. Okay, Charlie?
You have anything?
Terry?
Nothing today.
All right, Andy? Everybody's excited to get to pod. Reddick?
I got two things. First of all, Tuesday, September 9th, the YCOE Yuba County Career Preparatory Charter School right down the road from you guys at F Street is celebrating their 30th anniversary, helping all of our at-risk kids. I don't think they call them that anymore, but helping them graduate, find career paths, things like that. It's a big deal. So September 9th from 5 to 6:30 p.m. And then September 27th, there's a big time chef Vang coming down for a farm to fork feast on D Street. He's actually doing a traditional Hmong dinner, and it's part of a Tierra Madre worldwide food celebration. It's called Slow Food. It's to kind of slow down, eat healthy food. A little bit of a change to what we're used to in America. But we're blending that with our farm to fork dinner that we host on D Street, and it's going to benefit the Marysville Business Alliance, who, as you guys know, a lot of the members of that were affected during the hotel debacle, and a lot of them lost their businesses, but the ones that remain, they're part of this Marysville Business Alliance that needs all the help they can get to bring business back into the city. So that is actually September 27th. It's a world-renowned chef. He's on the Top Chef on TV and all that stuff, but it's going to be, social hour starts at 5, dinner starts at 6, and tickets are available. So big event. Thank you.
Thank you. Seth? Nothing? I have a few things too. I already purchased my Sodbusters ticket, and more importantly, the winning raffle ticket for the trip to Hawaii at Sodbusters from Vanjie. So hopefully you guys can all make it to Sodbusters, support that. And the Marysville Stampede, obviously. On September 20th is the Food and Water Festival in Oregon House from 12 to 5. It's a really great event. And I understand from Dee Dee, they're going to have tours of the new Power Systems headquarters at 9:30 that morning on the way. So hope you guys can all make it. I retired from the dunking booth. I will not be in the dunk booth this year because Dee Dee cheated last year and couldn't hit the deal, so she ran up and hit it with her hand. So put me into retirement on dunk booth. The same night as the 27th, if you don't want to go to the deal in Marysville, is Hogs and Hulas up at Sycamore Ranch, right on the Yuba River. It's a really nice event, and hopefully you can all make it to that. And with that, I'm going to say we're going to take like a 10-minute break, and then before closed session, so, or I guess a 7-minute break. We'll meet at 11:05 for closed session. We're going to recess until then. Thank you.
Recording stopped.
Yuba-Sutter.live's local government live streams are presented by Plumas Lake Self-Storage in Plumas Lake, where lifelong local residents are helping other residents keep things safe, providing indoor storage units, outdoor RV and vehicle parking, moving supplies, and Penske truck rentals. Details at plumaslakeselfstorage.com.
Hi, I'm Neil Goforth of Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties. Caring for elders or even yourself has challenges. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties can help you address today's issues and plan for tomorrow with in-home and specialized care for you or your family members. Call us at 530-749-8800. Comfort Keepers of Yuba, Sutter, and Nevada counties.
the truth that comes through.